great classical music again. We all know that, right? Rodale? Well, if you go to the Library of Congress recordings, in the year 1936, they recorded William Stepp, Kentucky fiddler, playing note for note. Rodeo and the suite that Mr. Copeland put together has a copyright of 1943. It seems that Ruth Seeger had come back from one of their collection trips of the Seeger family. And for those of you who are not aware that, Pete, we know Pete and Mike and Peggy and all them and from the folk music world that they were exposed to by their parents. But what they don't know, a lot of people don't realize is that started because Charles and Sarah went down to take classical music to the uncultured people in the hills, and ended up all turned around. So they started bringing the traditional music back. Well, she had transcribed all these pieces. Boy, Mr. Copeland was looking for something for his next piece and literally going through all the sheets of music until he came to this, and he said, I'll take that one. He took it note for note. So there. Yes, he did a lot of things to it after he got it. But to me, that's one of the earliest ways to put together a symphony there is. Find folk melodies that exist, and here all these tunes had been coming out. So I said, well, if Mr. Copeland can do it, why can't I? So I put together a fiddle suite, shall we call it? Imagining a time, this was around the time of the first Gulf War, and down where we live in the southern Appalachian Mountains, and it is the southern Appalachian Mountains, not the northern. And I do say Appalachian, and that is how it is in the dictionary. And yes, the person from West Virginia said, we don't care what it says in the dictionary. This is how we say it here. I said, we all say ain't cane, but we don't do that on a regular basis either. But I digress. I had a fella in Georgia look at me and say, what kind of Yankee are you? I said, well, Pittsburgh is south of the division, geological division of the northern and southern Appalachians. And I looked at him very simply, and I said, well, we live in Pittsburgh. Now we're in southern Ohio, 127 southern Appalachian counties. The government's got it all written down that way. I said, so you could pick where the Lord put his hand down in those mountains and divided them to north and south. Or you can take that line that some Yankee drew in the sand. Well, the guy didn't know what to do. So we are southern Ohio, but down in that part of town, let me tell you, it rains here and you've got all these roads. I'm not sure what it's like when you get up in the hill. But if it's raining like this where we live down there, don't get off the paved road. By paved road, I mean the gravel. Even in the gravel, we've had buses known to sink through the gravel when it rains enough. Everybody's yelling drought. We were being flooded off the hill. But if you walk through the woods in that, it's very dark, it's very gray, it's very muddy, and I started to remember in a time when people didn't go into a plane miles up in the sky or a room somewhere set aside and push buttons. They had to walk to face their opponents. And they'd walk through those hills, and they might have had a dance at the local, at one of the local halls the night before they left, and they would usually end the dance. They still end the dances with a waltz, pretty much. So we're going to start with a tune called Midnight on the Water. You heard the waltz Midnight on the Water? Benny Thomason probably made it most popular. Was his dad or grandfather said it was written in this tuning. DDad. And march off to war to a tune called Washington's March, which comes from the playing, I get it from the playing of Ed Hammonds, who was a West Virginia fiddler, not too far from here. Chase off the bad guys after the battle with Bonaparte's retreat. Come home to a tune called Dry and Dusty, because by then they probably were. And for the lucky ones, chance to dance with their sweetheart again to Midnight on the Water again. And I always send this particular piece of music out to all those who put themselves in harm's way over the years.